Hi, everyone. Crista Cowan here with another episode of the Barefoot Genealogist. Today, we are starting a brand new series called Between the Leaves. Now, many of you may be familiar with the little leaf hints on Ancestry. What I want to show you is what comes behind that, what goes into delivering those hints to you, in addition to the other 30 billion records available on Ancestry. Now, there's a lot of magic that goes into the unfolding of the family history story. And so I want to give you a peek behind the curtain of how we deliver that magic for our Ancestry members. So what I've got lined up for you is a series every other Tuesday right here on YouTube at this exact same time, 2 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll let you convert that into your own time zone. And I've lined up some of my favorite colleagues here at Ancestry to give you a little peek into what they do here and how that contributes to the experience that you have when you're on Ancestry. I thought I would start this series with an introduction to myself and my journey here at Ancestry. But while I'm sharing that, what I hope you will do is think about what it is that you want to know about what we do. And so maybe some of the little snippets of story that I share with you today will spark a question or an idea. Please put that in the comments. I'll share with you at the end when we're done today a little bit about who I've invited. But that list is not fixed. So if there are other jobs here at Ancestry that you're curious about, other people that you know from genealogy conferences or events, other things you're curious about or have questions about, I absolutely can insert some episodes and invite some additional friends to come and share their Between the Leaves experience here at Ancestry. So a little bit about me. As I mentioned, my name's Crista Cowan, and I am the corporate genealogist here at Ancestry. But that's not where I started my Ancestry journey. My Ancestry journey started in 2004, so over 18 years ago now, in February. I had been running my own genealogy research firm, so doing research, family history research for clients. And back then, working for myself from home, was a new thing. It was something I got antsy really easily because I didn't interact with living, breathing humans on a daily basis. Didn't think that 18 years later we'd have a whole 2 years to work from home and be alone. But there I was, and that and some other circumstances in my life meant that I wanted to just get a little part-time job just to get me out of the house in the morning and be around people. And Ancestry, the corporate headquarters at the time, were in Provo, Utah, just a few miles from my home. And so I thought, they're doing business in the same industry that I'm in. I had been an Ancestry customer at that point for 6 or 7 years. So I thought, I'll just see if they have any little part-time jobs I can take. So they did. And so I took a part-time morning job working here at Ancestry in the indexing team. Now, what the indexing team does is when records have been digitized, they then have to be indexed in order to be searchable for you. And there is a team here at Ancestry, or was at the time, that would review or audit all of the indexing and check that the images were linked correctly, kind of a QA process. And so I did that for a few months. And I thought I was just going to work here for a few months. But shortly after I started work here, a position opened up in content acquisition as a manager with responsibility for all of Europe. Now, that meant that somebody with some genealogical experience needed to know what historical records existed in archives and libraries and other record repositories around Europe. And so that was the job that I interviewed for and ultimately got. Now, next week, my first guest will be my boss from that role. He is actually employee number 3 here at Ancestry. He's been here longer than all but 2 employees. And he is brilliant at content acquisition and understands that part of the business really well. So if you have questions about how Ancestry identifies or acquires records, please ask those questions here. Let me know what specifically things you want to know, and I will put those on the list to ask Quentin next week when I bring him on or in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, next episode, 2 weeks, when I bring him on to interview him. So I fulfilled that role or did that job for about 2.5 years. Now, at that time, Ancestry was opening up our London office, and ultimately that position ended up moving to London, and I made the decision not to move with it. I thought my time at Ancestry would come to an end then. I was still doing private client research on the side. It's still very much my passion, is helping people start their family trees and learn more about their family history. But I had the opportunity to do a little job swap. So the gentleman who was the project manager in our content production department moved his family to London and took my job. The woman who was responsible for all of indexing took his job, and so I took her job. So we just played a little musical chairs and I ended up being the indexing manager. So I was responsible then for all of the indexing of the records that occurred. And in 2 episodes, so 2 weeks from now, we'll do content acquisition. 2 weeks after that, we'll do content production. And I'll bring in one of the team members from the current team that does that work. And you'll get to learn a little bit more about how that all happens. So if you have, again, specific questions about how Ancestry creates or acquires digital images for records, how they index those records, why sometimes there's only an index available to certain records. Let us know if you've got specific questions in that vein here in the comments, and we will be sure and ask those questions of our content production team when they're on the show in a few weeks. Again, I thought maybe my time here at Ancestry, it might be a natural time to wrap it up, but at the time we were spinning a new kind of project off of our indexing team called the World Archives Project. I know some of you have been involved in that. It is a volunteer indexing program that Ancestry sponsors, and any of the records that are keyed or indexed through that particular project are available to search for free on Ancestry. And it was a great way to get involved in a different part of the business. It was the first time that I had really started interacting with all of you at any level. Like I was going to genealogy conferences and speaking and teaching a lot about World Archives Project, but also about family history in general. And that was a really lovely couple of years to get that project spun up. And then ultimately we folded it back into production. And we did that in the fall of 2011. And I found myself, worked myself right out of a job. And I thought, maybe now I can leave Ancestry. It's not that I wanted to. I just, again, was still doing this research business on the side. But about that time, I realized that social media was kind of taking off. So YouTube and Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. Instagram, of course, was not a thing really yet. But that fall of 2011, as I talked to our chief marketing officer and had conversations with other people around the company, what I decided I really wanted to do with my career and with my life at that point was to teach people about family history. And so I started the Barefoot Genealogist series with a series of we used to go live twice a week. And sometimes Ancestry Ann would join me, Ann Mitchell, and Juliana Zooks and others here at the company. And we would just hop online for 20 or 30 minutes and teach a little class. And then we started uploading those videos to YouTube, and pretty much the rest is history. So that's the primary role that I've been in since October of 2011. At the time, we decided that my job title would change to corporate genealogist. And I gave up my side business of doing private client research and have been able to still do research here at Ancestry. So Ann Mitchell, Ancestry Ann, we will bring her on as part of this series. She is not only a professional genealogist, but she is also one of the product managers here at Ancestry, responsible for the family tree product the building of trees. I think she has some of the team members who handle search services and hint services that report up through her as well. And so if you have questions about how we develop products, or how we talk to customers, or how we manage any of that user feedback, Anne will be able to answer some of those questions. So if you have those questions, leave those here in the comments as well so that I can collect those for her. In addition to that, Ancestry does a lot of research for television programs. You may have noticed that all of our commercial campaigns are actual customers telling their family history stories, or reenactment of true customer stories, lots of different ways that we kind of involve you in the telling of stories. Some of you may have noticed in the last couple of weeks, Ancestry released a documentary called A Dream Delivered, The Lost Letters of Hawkins Wilson. And there is a team here of story producers who are also genealogists, and they are very actively involved in researching family trees, taking those customer stories and vetting them, building out family trees and trying to connect with some of you so that we can tell those stories. And they're the team that was responsible for that particular show, that particular documentary. They're also the team that drives the research and project management with Ancestry Pro Genealogists of Who Do You Think You Are? So Who Do You Think You Are is not owned by Ancestry, but we are a sponsor of the show, and we do the research here in the United States. And so the team, the story producer team that's responsible for the television programming and the research in some of those productions, I will have one of them on in a future episode here of Between the Leaves. And you can ask whatever questions you have of her about those television shows that we have in production, or things that have worked in the past or not worked in the past, or how that whole process works. So if you've got questions for her, leave those here as well. And then I mentioned Ancestry Pro Genealogists, who actually do the tree research for Who Do You Think You Are? They also do client research. So Ancestry purchased them. They were an independent genealogical research firm that Ancestry brought into the fold several years ago. And they still do client research. That's their primary focus. They also do heritage travel and some other really great opportunities. And so I will have a member of the Ancestry Pro Genealogist team here on the series as well. So if you have questions about how that works, hiring a professional genealogist, how you go about it, when might be a good time to do it, anything about their heritage travel program, please ask those questions here as well so that we can get those questions answered for you. So that's kind of the outline of what I have planned so far for you, is just having every 2 weeks, I will be here on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and spend about 15 minutes just sharing a little bit of behind the scenes of what goes into the Ancestry experience here at Ancestry with some of my colleagues that work here in the various departments around the company. And I'm super excited about this. I'm excited to share my colleagues with you and their brilliance and expertise. But I want to have meaningful conversations with them that are about things that you want to know. So please do leave any questions or comments that you have. I will be sure to look through all of those so that we can, I can grill them. I can ask them those questions in the coming weeks. That's all I have for you today. This was just a little intro or a sneak peek, a little bit about my story and my journey here at Ancestry. And if you have any questions you want to know about me and the work that I do here, you're welcome to ask those as well. Right now, we're slated, I think, to do 8 total episodes. But like I said, if you have more questions that can be answered by other colleagues of mine here at Ancestry, I'm happy to calendar them in as well. So until next time, I'm Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.